Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deirdre Walls. I'm with JBS International, the contractor with SAMHSA. Welcome to the first SAMHSA peer-to-peer webinar for Family Treatment Drug Course on Engaging Fathers. Just a couple of housekeeping rules. Please mute your phones unless you have a question, and there will be time to answer questions after presentation. This way, we do not receive any background information, as again, this webinar is being recorded. After the webinar, within a few days, the presentations will be provided to all the grantees, as well as notes as to what occurred. This information will be provided on the Ideas Exchange, which all project directors should have access to. If you do not, you may email me at dwalls@jbsinternational.com, and I can forward you the directions on how to get to the Ideas Exchange. Also, if there are any questions regarding any technical assistance, feel free to also address those questions to myself. I'm going to now introduce you to your Government Project Officer, Ms. Amy Romero.
Thank you, Deidre. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning for those of you on the West Coast, and Happy New Year, everyone. Well, welcome to our first Family Treatment Drug Court quarterly webinar. The purpose of these webinars is to give us an opportunity to learn the great and exciting things that you're doing, the programs that you have, the approaches and models that you're implementing in your family drug courts. This is a platform that will allow us to network with one another. I will also use these webinars to provide you with important SAMHSA updates and remind you of grants management's requirements and deadlines that will be coming up. During the grantee meeting, I heard over and over that more time is needed to network. So these webinars will give us that platform to discuss as a group issues and important topics in the family drug court field and to get to know each other better. I really would like all of the programs to be able to call each other, ask questions, and see, what other programs are doing, how are they implementing certain things. And you will have an opportunity to learn what your peers are doing all over the country, ask questions, and learn, new strategies that you could implement. Okay, and we will also have the expertise of CFF as we, just to guide us during this process.
Real quick, Amy,
okay.
I'm sorry, Amy?
Yes, go ahead.
Before you proceed, let me do real quick the roll call to see how many more people have joined us, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. Has Harris County joined the webinar? Illinois Department of Children and Family Services? LPMA is here. County of Sacramento is here. Charles County. Oklahoma County. That's Pasco County. Marion County.
Yes, this is Kelly Welker from Marion County.
Hi, Kelly. King
Hi.
County. Jefferson County. And County of Alameda. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, Deidre, thank you. So do we have, how many programs do we have on so far?
I'm counting 4.
Okay. I'll start with some grants management updates. Your FFRs was due on December 30th. Your carryover request was also due on December 30th. If those were not submitted on December 30th, please call your GMS, Helen Zhao, and she can provide guidance on what to do if those were not submitted yet. Also, continuation applications are due on January 23rd. And FFR's carryover requests and continuation applications are managed by the Office of Grants Management at SAMHSA, so they will be able to provide accurate responses to your questions if you have any questions regarding those processes. We will briefly talk about SPARS. So we will be transitioning to SPARS on February 28th. SPARS will replace the SPACE system, as it was discussed during our last conference call. And information on the transition to SPARS was sent to all grantees on January 4th. If you have not received it, please let me know and I will forward that email to you. SPARS training sessions will be held starting on January 31st, and they will go on until February 9th. They have scheduled about 6 sessions for you to choose. You don't have to attend all 6, you just have to choose one, but they have 6 available training sessions on the system. I am working with CCFF to develop a clear annual evaluation template report. Once the template is finalized, we will send it to all of the family drug courts, and CFF will assist you on how to complete that template, how to gather the data, and submit that information for your next annual report. Anything else you would like to add, Phil?
No, I think we wanted to offer an opportunity for some discussion.
Yes. Are there any questions or concerns so far since our last conference call on the transition to SPARS, and any questions with the performance management tool?
And Amy, this is Sharon Beard. You did say that there would be a schedule coming out as to those 6 trainings at the end of the month. Is that right?
Yes, it was actually sent on January 4th. An email came out from SAMHSA to all of the grantees on January 4th, and I could send that if you did not receive that. Let's go ahead. I feel, could we send that to all of the family drug courts? The SPARS email that went out, just to make sure that the family drug courts receive it. And that includes the training information and how you register for those trainings and the dates that start from January 31st to February 9th, because the actual transition will start on February 28th.
Yes, Amy, we sent out a notice from our the SAMHSA FDTC account last week, but we will resend it. And I think actually what I'll have, rather than it come out through our general account, I'll have the PML send direct emails to each of the grantees.
Okay, great. Thank you, Phil. Okay.
Yeah, the only thing I would add for the grantees on the call is that we will be providing all of you with a performance measurement data summary for you to consider for your annual report, which will be due in October of 2017. And we will go over that sample data summary with you individually. So that will be also coming out to you with your initial demographic information pre-populated in the summary, and that will come to each of you end of January, very beginning of February. Okay. All right. If there are no other questions for Amy, we'll go forward. And again, welcome. It looks like I see Jill Murphy has joined us from King County. So Jill, thanks for joining. And are there any other grantees that joined the call since Deidre did the roll call that would like to introduce themselves? Other than Jill? Okay. Okay, thank you. So welcome everyone. As Amy said, this is our first of our 3 quarterly webinars. I will give you the dates for the upcoming, the remaining 2 for this calendar year towards the end of the presentation. We're trying to keep these fairly brief. We like to highlight 2 programs on each of these webinars, and then allow some time for questions and discussions, and then we'll follow up with some resources. The idea or the concept of engaging fathers in family treatment courts has been one that we have at the National Family Drug Court Training and Technical Assistance Program been very interested in for many years. And I think if you pull the lens back a bit from family treatment courts and you think about the larger child welfare system in general, it's very challenging for the child welfare system to engage fathers generally. Most of case plans tend to focus, at least historically, on the mothers Oftentimes it requires social workers or case managers to locate fathers, to notice them, and then to include them in the case plan, sometimes to prove paternity. And by the time all of those things are done, the case has moved down the road quite a bit. And then so then for an intensified wraparound program like Family Treatment Courts to then loop that father back into the program when maybe they haven't engaged even with the child welfare system until months after the child's been removed is very challenging. And so to take on this concept of engaging fathers in Family Treatment Courts is one of a very challenging work and innovative work. And so we're lucky that we have two of your colleagues who have been really engaged in this work to find or to explore ways to better engage fathers in their family treatment courts. Just for context, in your initial uploads for year one, there were 371 adults uploaded or served through your 11 family treatment courts, and of those, 107, or approximately 29%, were identified as fathers or presumptive fathers. So that's above average of what we see in other national studies in terms of the amount of fathers being served in family treatment courts. It's about 10% higher. Typically, we see about an 80-20 split, 80% being mothers, 20% being fathers, and so in this program, we're seeing nearly 30% of fathers being served in the program. And that may be in part to these programs that we're going to hear from today. So today you're going to hear from Sacramento County. They have an innovative program called Rooms for Dads, and you're going to hear from the project director, Sharon DePiro-Beard, and from Christine Knudsen from Bridges, and Patrick Walsh, who's a counselor for Rooms for Dads. Following the Sacramento County presentation, you're going to hear from our Pima County Family Treatment Court and their project director, Chris Swinson-Smith, and also their intake coordinator, Keith Brunson, to talk about the strategies that they're working on to better engage and to serve fathers in their programs. So with that, I'd like to turn it now over to Sharon DePiro-Beard.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having Sacramento County. We are happy to talk about our program. We have a cute name, Room for Dads, and what it stands for is Recovery Opportunities Open for Men, or for us, it's Room for Dads. I have a flyer, and you can see it up there. We use the same poster to let our social workers know that we are out there and that we have this program. We're a fairly large county, and so this is our way of letting social workers know at various sites about our program. So I'm going to start with the first box. In fact, wait, before I go anywhere further, I'd like to introduce my two colleagues on the line as well, Christy Knudsen and,
and Patrick.
And Patrick. So who's eligible? In Sacramento, we have two family treatment drug courts. Both have been established for some time now. Our dependency drug court started in 2001, and our early intervention family drug court, which is a pre-plea court, it happens in the voluntary section of our program, started in 2007. We decided to target this program to those dads who were in our program, but because of barriers, which our STARS program is about, taking down those barriers to treatment, could not attend due to work schedules or education. Maybe they're in school during the day, they're working during the day, and it was our thought that some of these dads would have been in treatment, but sometimes even the social worker or maybe the parent's attorney says, oh, you're working, this won't work for you. So that was part of the reason for this program. And another part of the reason for this program was that many of these dads, like Phil was saying, we focus so much on the moms and the children. We forget about the trauma and the issues these dads go through as well. And they're in some ways our forgotten population. So Sacramento, over the years, has really built the number of fathers that participate in both of our family treatment drug courts to around 40%. This is up about 10% over the years. So I'll start with the first question: how did our family drug court focus on fathers evolve? Well, actually, it's been there. It's always been there, and between our collaborative partner of child welfare and the court, we have continuously pushed for dads to get involved, to be part of the family. It probably got more involved when we started with our early intervention family drug court, because we had moms coming in with newborn babies. The target population at the time was substance-exposed infants, and the dads wanted to be part of this. And more we were getting our fathers involved in taking a family view and not just that individual view. Next question was, why was it important to elevate practice and pay more attention to fathers? Like I said, I don't know that we elevated our practice. This grant, though, we provide gender-specific treatment, but oftentimes it was just during the day, and it was more of a general treatment. It didn't have the trauma focus that Rooms for Dad does. Dads are part of our family system, and so in doing that, we need to engage everyone. Our next is to talk about, if you follow our boxes on our flyer, you'll see the benefits. Fathers involved with this, it helps as far as improving engagement and retention. It leads to increased reunification rates, reduced entry back into out-of-home care, and overall improved family functioning. Engaging, I'm going to ask Patrick to talk a little bit about this, how engaging fathers is different from engaging mothers. I mean, we do talk about that, you know, emotions and women are much more open, maybe in that way, than men. But men have that unique need of being able to open up as well. So, Patrick, if you'd like to speak to that for a couple minutes.
Well, the main difference, obviously, is going to be the pride and ego portion and the accountability portion. It's based on my experience that women go ahead and maybe use like a maternal instinct right away and get kind of accountable and ask for help. With men, most of them get there on their own after a period of weeks, and some of them just jump right in. What's unique about this program that we're talking about is they have the opportunity to do that at their speed, and once they do become accountable to whatever situation they're involved in, we've seen a lot of success, and I'm very grateful for that.
So our next question is, what are the unique needs of engaging fathers and serving fathers? They're unique needs, like we were talking earlier. These are, for many of these men, they are the providers for their families. For some who reach sobriety, this is their opportunity to get back into the game, to get back out there into society, to finish their education pursuits. And treatment should not be a block to that. Treatment should be an enhancement to that. And we really needed to take a step back and recognize our dads and realize most of our treatment, at least here in Sac County, we do have some after hours, but nowhere near the way this program is set up. So this program goes till 9 in the evening. So it allows dads to really put in a full day's work and then go on to that program. Now, on the bottom box, we talk about our curriculum. And we have Strengthening Families, which is our parent education, Helping Men Recover, which is a trauma-informed curriculum by Dan Griffin and Stephanie Cuffingen. We also have Seeking Safety and Living in Balance and Life Skills. Together for these dads, this is a unique combination. Our first 3 months starts with more of a trauma focus. So, Patrick, would you talk a little bit about how we set up our program, the first 3 months and then the last 3 months?
Well, basically it works in 2 phases. So once you have completed an intake, you immediately go into AOD, which is, there's 24 weeks of that, so you'll be going 1 day a week, and then the latter part of the week. And there's also, on the first day of treatment, there's Strengthening Families, which is a parenting course. And then on Fridays is a social support. Basically, they all come together, and it's an open discussion, and that's where most of the trust and accountability is reached in that part. And then once they complete the 12 weeks of parenting, the 12 weeks of social support, and the 24 weeks of education, they go into what's called phase 3. And that's where the trauma-informed treatment is at. And that's on a certain day. There's no other classes that are involved, and that's where Seeking Safety is offered, and that's where Helping Men Recover is offered. Seeking Safety is more of a open group, and they get the opportunity to create the safety container on their own at their speed. Helping Men Recover is by the second week, the container is already created. It is a closed session, and I don't know, I don't want to be unprofessional here, but it is absolutely complete magic. The transformation you're going to see these fathers walk through as far as trauma is concerned. And then the next day on the phase 3 would be the Living in Balance and another social support. And Living in Balance helps like with resumes, vocational, educational, just life skills, so to speak, and how to manage that in urban sobriety, how to manage that maybe with co-occurring disorders. It's a great curriculum as well, and I hope I provided enough detail for you.
Thank you, Patrick, very much. So now we come to, did we get some pushback? Were there people or agencies, did we have any problems? And we didn't. Maybe it's because we had both of these drug courts up and running for some time. Maybe it's because both drug courts continue to meet in work groups and have over all the years that they've been in operation. But for all of us, this has been a wonderful segue into how we not only work with our entire family, but really focus on our dads. As far as our data right now, we, as of the beginning of January, we're a little bit under what we thought we would be serving, but we've served about 105 clients, dads, and we're at a successful completion at about 40%. Then our last picture on our flyer, a child actually drew this picture, but they drew it before we ever had this program. And it was in a frame up in our STARS program, so it just seemed the perfect way to be on our flyer for our program. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Sharon, Christy, and Patrick. We appreciate that, and that's a darling picture, by the way. So thanks for sharing that and giving us an overview of those programs. Let's turn our time now to Pima County, and I will introduce to you Chris Swinson-Smith. Chris?
Thank you, Phil. I'm the project director for our Family Drug Court grant. I supervise the Family Drug Court supervisor. We got started just like Sacramento in 2001 as a Family Drug Court. With me today is Keith Brunston, who formerly was one of our case managers and now is our intake coordinator. You know, we were a model court since 1996, and part of that was having, you know, a collaborative that set goals every year. And in general, our Family Drug Court has been the model for the rest of the dependency system in Pima County, which is in Tucson, Arizona. But in this case, in 2008, the model court had a goal of engaging fathers across the dependency system, and it was actually the broader system that informed a change in our Family Drug Court. So when we partnered with one of the partners on that subcommittee to increase the number of fathers involved in dependency cases overall was our child support enforcement folks, and they were able to give us more accurate information about fathers' whereabouts. And so finding the dads right off the bat and serving them and inviting them to attend court hearings was highly successful, and we continue to do that. The other thing that I hadn't mentioned when I was preparing for this and forgot about, but something that Phil said earlier triggered that when he was talking about establishing paternity and that kind of stuff, is that we also had the family law bench working with us on this, and it was out of that committee that we were able to reach an agreement to consolidate family law cases with dependencies. So it almost, I think it's something like 90% of our parents in dependency cases are never married, and so there are rarely any custody or parenting time orders, and we thought it was important, especially if we were going to engage fathers, that no parent who is reunified should have their dependency closed before there was a custody and parenting time order in place and put into the family law legal file. And so that made a difference too, took down that legal barrier that many of the fathers had because they had never established custody. So part of the work as we were learning what that subcommittee was doing, and I actually was participating on it, was we realized that we were putting up a lot of barriers for fathers to participate in family drug court, and we had a really low number. I think we had about 10% of our parents in family drug court were dads. So one of the things as we had a SAMHSA grant to expand, and we decided to start a second session every Wednesday of family drug court, and we thought, why not just separate moms and dads and see how that looks. And we set the father session later in the day to help accommodate work schedules. And that was highly effective. I think, we kind of watched dads as they walked in to observe family drug court and just their reaction right off the bat and sort of closing themselves off to it when the room was full of women, as opposed to later when we had the dad's court. So our family drug court is voluntary. However, every parent who has substance use allegations in their dependency petition is ordered by the court to come and attend and observe one session of family drug court, and that's our chief way of recruiting parents. It wasn't working very well with the dads, again, because they were walking into a courtroom full of women and hearing the women talk about their stories. So we started our dad session. Big change. Again, they came in and felt like they belonged and that they were welcome. The other thing that happened was, up until that point, we were not able to take both parents in a family where there were domestic violence allegations because of safety issues if they were both appearing in family drug court at once. So what it came down to, our unofficial policy was whichever one got to us first was the one who got in. And it didn't seem very fair, especially if maybe it was the perpetrator who got to us first. So having a separate father's session has made it possible now for us to accept couples who have domestic violence allegations, and since they never appear at the same time, they never get to hear each other's information, we broadened the number of folks who could come into family drug court. So there you're seeing some interesting statistics. We had our evaluator, we're going to go back and compare a couple of years. So 2009 was before we started the father's session, and then she compared it to 2015. We wanted to get as much of a full year as we could to see how that compared. And you can see there's a big difference in the number of fathers who have successfully completed family drug court since we started a father's session. The really interesting thing to me is that reunification rate. So In 15, our reunification rate was 67% for family drug court parents. I'd like to say that right now it's 84%. So we've really done a lot in the last couple of years, mostly through our Prevention and Family Recovery Grant, to really increase our reunification rates. But of all of those parents who participated in fiscal 15, of those reunifications, 11% were reunified to fathers only, 6% to mothers only, and 50% to both parents. So twice as many single parents who reunified were fathers, and that, I thought that was pretty impressive. We have one treatment provider in Pima County who does a specific men's recovery curriculum. They do have some emphasis on trauma. I think they have some work to do to catch up to what Bridges is doing in the men's room in Sacramento. But we do try to get our fathers going towards that treatment to see if they try to accommodate them with some later treatment, and they're not doing some of the stuff that Sacramento is doing, but they do have Celebrating Families. They've got some Spanish speaking. They've built in some wellness for dads, and of course it's got a program called Warrior Within. We didn't get really any pushback. I don't think. Family Drug Court has long been, since we've been so well established, our outcomes are so good compared to the rest of the dependency system. We are the testing ground for best practice in dependency cases with substance use in Pima County, and generally the things that we have learned, like addressing trauma, focusing on evidence-based parenting, those have gradually become infused into the broader dependency system. And so when we try something like this, it's generally very well accepted. And I think in particular the Parents Council, who had fathers, represented fathers, were very excited that we had a separate men's session. So some of the advantages to engaging fathers, obviously, they build a camaraderie. There was one particular session, I remember there was a father who was in noncompliance for the 4th or 5th time maybe, and one of the things that he was being asked to do was to do 7 meetings in 7 days, or 10 in 10, I can't remember which one. And he hadn't been to any outside recovery meetings, and the judge said, is there anybody here who can go with him tonight so he'd feel more comfortable? And every single dad in the courtroom raised his hand. And after he left after court, they all walked up to him like a big huddle and just supported him, and it was really pretty amazing. And I realized I had never seen something quite like that happen with the women in their session, and can't quite figure it out. But my thought is, you know, I think in general, in society, women already have those mechanisms to build female support groups, kind of a sisterhood. It comes naturally, and they come to us already with some of those supports in place. However, that doesn't come as easily for men sometimes, especially the men that participate in our dependency cases. There isn't a natural way for that to happen, and maybe their support group really has been the guys that they've used with before, or possibly some of their guys at work. But so we have now created that atmosphere for them to create a gender-specific support group, and I think that's what the difference is. So now I think we're just a little bit over the average. I think we're about 1/3 males for all of our family drug court participants. A huge benefit that came out of the Engaging Fathers court-wide initiative, and we have seen obviously happen in family drug court, is that you double, when you bring in the father, you bring in the father's family and kinship, and that gives you twice as many potential for relative placements, for family support, and it can just increase reunification rates and permanency rates across the board. And I think I've covered everything. Keith, is there anything that I didn't cover?
Well, I think the camaraderie that we see in family drug court with the men, I think it starts at the very beginning. We have a male recovery support specialist who's a peer support for our men, and that relationship begins in the very beginning, and these guys, I think, come into the program having lost a lot of power, control in their lives. I mean, this dependency process inherently strips them of that. They feel stripped of control in their lives, and so I think a lot of what we do through our RSSs, through the atmosphere of the courtroom itself that the judge establishes, I think it goes a long way in giving them that power back. And you see that in how they interact with each other, how they interact with the judge. It's a looser courtroom generally than you see in the women's sessions. Yeah, that's all I'd add.
And again, you know, Sacramento mentioned this too, accommodating dads' employment needs. There seems to be a huge emphasis. Frequently when the dads come to us, the thing they're focusing on their case plan is getting a job and not necessarily treatment. And we help them kind of put both of those together. But one of the things we've seen happen, they always want to talk about their job in court, and the judge always brings it up. Where are you working now? How's that going? And we've had them hire each other before. They get promoted to like a landscaping foreman or somebody at or a supervisor at the car wash or for a construction company, and they will hire each other, or they'll give each other a reference to get a job. So we see that happening in there too. I think that's about it for what we've done with engaging fathers. As Keith mentioned, we do have a male recovery support specialist. He takes most of the dads. He can't cover all of them right now, but we do, if we have a father who has a strong preference for having a male recovery support specialist, we will make sure that they get assigned to Anthony. And of course, having Keith be the first face that the fathers see when they come in to do their intake, because Keith does trauma screenings and trauma symptom screenings, and you know, that's one of those areas where they're getting pretty personal about their childhood and any abuse and trauma that they've suffered. And I think probably talking to a male makes that easier for them too. We also have a female intake coordinator.
Great. Well, thanks, Chris, and thanks, Keith. I would just say I've had a chance to observe this particular court, the Father's Court, and when you're sitting in the galley or in the hallway, actually, prior to court, the men who are waiting to go into court look like just about any other men you would see in any other drug court, with, you know, tattoos and lots of machismo and their big work boots and everything else you might expect. But the minute those doors shut, they become like little jelly beans, and they're bouncing their toddlers in their knees, and they're giggling, and they're supporting each other. It's just a really amazing experience to see what happens once these men are able to close the door and just really focus on supporting each other in their journey on recovery. So thanks to both Sacramento and to Pima for sharing some of your innovations that you're working on to engage fathers. I wanted to, at this point, go ahead and open it up for some discussion. And I thought we can open up this discussion in two ways. One is, those of you that are listening, one, do you have questions for either of the presenters, either of the counties? And two, are you in your counties already working on some engagement strategies of fathers that you would like to share with us? It's always nice to hear what others are doing. So at this point, I'll open it up. Okay. I'll let you continue to think about that, because we did have a couple of questions that came in. And I will allow each, both Pima and Sacramento, I think, to go ahead and address this if you don't mind, if you feel comfortable. The first one is for each of you, maybe we'll go ahead and start with Chris this time. Where do you see your Engaging Fathers program going from here? Do you feel like and you kind of alluded to some of this, Chris, that's why I wanted to start with you. Do you see any service gaps or additional areas that you'd like to address?
Definitely service gaps. As we've been trying to work with incorporating evidence-based, trauma-focused treatment as well as evidence-based parenting and family therapy, child-parent psychotherapy, all those things into our Family Drug Court milestones. We definitely see that there's a deficit in our treatment community. We have an interesting treatment community here. We have our Regional Behavioral Health Authority who draws down money from the state, the Title 19 money, and then they subcontract with lots of different community agencies. And so because a lot of times parents aren't familiar with the treatment providers, the DCS worker who has done the removal and is getting the initial referral started often sends them just to whoever the next treatment provider is on the list. So we, at any given time, could have dads in 6 different substance use treatment agencies. And of course, they all approach things differently. Some are more evidence-based than others. We have only one with a specific men's curriculum. So we're working really closely with that REBA. They're called Simpatico. They're a for-profit that actually works around the country, but they did hire a lot of local folks who have experience with us, and we've really partnered with them to help us increase the number of evidence-based services being offered through all of our treatment providers for children, for parents, and for families. Really receptive to that, and so they are beginning to hold these agencies accountable for offering evidence-based. And so that's where I see us going. Right now we're partnering with them to increase the number of evidence-based parenting curricula that are available to our parents in the community. And I think we had 4 programs a year ago, and now we've got 11 or 12 choices in that. So it's been highly effective, and they are even willing to pay for curricula for these agencies and maybe pay for training for them to go to get some of these started. So I can definitely see us
Chris, when you say
with
that, you met Simpatico?
Yes. Yes. I can definitely see them being willing to partner with us to increase the number of gender-specific treatment, particularly for dads at many of the agencies, encouraging those agencies to do that.
Yeah, great. And that's, a great lesson there, and something I know, Chris, you and Pima have been working on for some time now, is to really engage what you call your REBA or your managed care organization, and others of you on the phone, if that's an area that that you haven't yet been able to really be successful in engaging your MCO or your regional care provider, and you'd like us to help with you, let us know. And I'm going to get to resources and technical assistance in a moment. Sharon, is there anything you wanted to add or respond to in terms of that question of where you're going from here?
Well, I'm going to ask Christy to chime in with me. Overall, this has been, when we started it, honestly, Phil, I thought this was just, to have men have treatment in the evening. What it's turned into has been kind of a surprise for me as well. The bonding that we see going on with these dads, this gender-specific program with this trauma focus has gone a long way. And so I'm hoping that we'll continue it after the grant has sunsetted, just by now we need to really take a close look at our outcomes. Did this make an impact as far as our reunification rates, and PIMA's reunification rates are outstanding. Where are we at with this? We measure our outcomes a little bit differently. We're about a year back from other counties, or maybe how other counties do it. Christy, what are your thoughts about continuing this program after the grant?
Well, we've seen numbers increase as we've gone on. In fact, right now we're serving 43 clients, which is the highest we've ever been. So now that the word's getting out and clients talk among themselves in drug court about how great this program is, we're finding that it's getting easier and easier to get men engaged and be involved in our program. And then also one addition we just made in the last couple months is we've opened up Spanish speaking. So we have four clients right now that are just in Spanish speaking only. They only speak Spanish, and we have a specific counselor in their own groups and their own Spanish curriculum. So that's been an addition to our Room for Dads program, which has been very successful. And we'll continue to grow that as we can.
Great. Let me, thank you for that. Let me turn it back again to the audience and other grantees. Again, do you have questions for our presenters today, or do you have comments in which maybe there are some things that you would like to add?
Hi, Jill. This is Deirdre. I received a question from Jill asking, how do you handle separating the cases if you are an integrated court because both parents have a right to be present at any hearing related to the child? And also, do parents who are together as a couple balk at having their cases separated during the hearing?
Yeah, well, thanks for the question. Thanks, Jill. Very intuitive question. Both Pima and Sacramento run parallel courts, and I think probably most folks on the line are aware of the two different models. Parallel meaning that the family treatment court review hearings or hearings are separated from the dependency court and reviewed by a different judge. So unfortunately, both of these courts are parallel. However, I'm going to go ahead and let Chris or Sharon respond to that and what you're hearing about that. And it seems like, and maybe John, I want to make sure I understand the question, but it seems like you're mainly interested in the PIMA model in which they have a dad's only or a father's only docket. And so maybe, Chris, you can start with that. Has there been any concerns from attorneys or from parents' counsel or from mothers about what's being said in the father's docket that they're not privy to?
No, I hadn't heard any of that. Keith, have you heard?
No.
And again, we've been a parallel court since we started. We do have, we've had quite a few cases where the dependency judge has given discretion to our family drug court judge to order unsupervised visits or overnight visits, placement, and even close the dependency case. So she communicates directly with the parents' counsel and the children's counsel to make sure they're okay for her to do that. And we haven't had, and they don't appear. We rarely, the only time we have attorneys come into court rarely is if there's a graduation and they come, you know, to celebrate with their client. But no, I can see, you know, we've talked about becoming an integrated court and the benefits of doing that, but I think since we launched the milestones, which are closely tied to the stage of reunification, and we work so closely with the dependency court to do that, and now that as I mentioned, the judges are giving discretion to our family drug court judge to make those orders, we are not seeing a lot of benefits to having an integrated court, but I can see that this would be one of our areas that we'd have to address if we ever did go in that direction.
Yeah. Sharon, did you want to add anything in response to that question?
Like you said, and you've also said, we're parallel, and we deliberately keep any situation where there could be agitation between couples, we keep them separate. Nothing has ever come up because we don't talk about the children in the court. We don't talk about that child welfare case. We stay really on task and focused to drug and alcohol issues. So that doesn't really come up.
So Jill, also to respond back to your question, you know, for integrated courts, and there are others on the line, the option here may be to think through what are the opportunities where fathers have opportunities to come together in specialized groups. in gender-specific groups in your communities and looking at gender-specific programming, so they do have, quote-unquote, that safe space to talk through maybe some male trauma issues. That may be how you work around that, and how you set up your court docket. That may not be the place in which you're being gender-specific or gender-responsive. So I am going to kind of transition now which provides a nice segue over to some resources and some maybe next steps. But just prior to me doing that, I noticed that a few others had joined in on the webinar following the roll call. And if you had joined us after roll call, would you mind just saying who you are and what county you're with?
Hey, this is Gregory Robinson. I'm the external evaluator with the County of Alameda Family Drug Court.
Hi, Greg. Thanks. Any others?
This is Kelly Earls with the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health with the Okmulgee County Family Drug Court. I'm the project director.
Thanks, Kelly. Others? Okay, great. If for some reason your voice is not coming through, you can also just shoot a note to Deidre through the chat mechanism. That would work too, so that we know that you're here. Okay, so shifting into next steps, one next step that you may consider, or the question in which we may pose to you is, do you know the numbers of the fathers you're currently serving in your program, and are those reflective of your general child welfare population? Whenever we go out to do an observation of a treatment program, one of the first questions we may ask of a team is, does the population within your family treatment court reflect the child welfare population in your community? And that could include moms and dads on your caseloads. It could also include race and ethnicity. And so we think it's important that you're constantly looking at your programs and how they're reflective of the larger child welfare system and the entries into your systems. So that would be one just first step, and the second step may be if you feel like it is reflective or this is an area you'd want to go, what resources are already in the communities that you could potentially access? And second to that is just reaching out to your treatment provider and asking what types of programming are they offering for men that's curriculum-based and gender-specific, and that maybe you can highlight that in your own marketing materials to better engage fathers. So a couple resources that we would highlight for you. We're going to follow up with some others, but we wanted to highlight the Dan Griffin and the Stephanie Covington program, Helping Men Recover. You can access resources on the website indicated. We also hosted a webinar on this topic back in 2011. It's called Engaging Fathers in Family Drug Courts, and the link's there. We're going to follow up with a list of resources and materials with all of you and to your colleagues following the call with some notes from the calls and some takeaways. We're going to add a few other resources to this list, including Seeking Safety. So if you wanted more information about those programs, you can access that. We also would like to offer you the opportunity, if you did have questions for Pima or for Sacramento and you weren't able to ask those questions today, we're happy to put you in contact with either of those programs, and I'm sure they'd be willing to chat with you. So you can contact us directly or go through Deidre or your PML. Any of those channels would work for us to connect you. Lastly, I wanted to make you aware of the dates of our next two grantee webinars. The next one will be on March 16th, and our last one will be for this year will be on June 15th. And so if you have an innovative program that you feel like your peers would be interested in hearing about, we're looking for volunteers to share on the next webinar, whether that be in the March one or the June one. So again, please just be in contact with your performance management liaison, and we can pull you together and work with you to help you prepare your remarks. And then the last comment that I'll make today before turning it back over to Amy is that we are going to see you all in person on July 11th for your in-person grantee meeting, which will be co-located at the National Drug Court Conference at the Gaylord in Maryland. So again, that's Tuesday, July 11th. That's the date of the grantee meeting, which will happen at National Harbor during the National Drug Court Conference. So those are the important dates for you to know about coming up. And I think that's it for me. Amy, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you, Phil. And I would also like to thank the Sacramento County program and the Pima County program for those great presentations and the great work that you are doing engaging fathers. I just have one announcement. Maybe some of you are aware that SAMHSA released the Family Treatment Drug Court solicitation for fiscal year 2017. Unfortunately, your program is not eligible to apply for this one, but you will be eligible to apply for the next one. But if you know of any other family drug courts in your community, please share that information. We will be funding 15 new family drug courts by September 30th, 2017. Okay, and I just wanted to go back to slide 5 very quickly. Phil, if you could, I don't know who has the control of the slides, but if you could go back to slide 5, I wanted to share some information on GIPRA and where we are as a cohort. As we shared before, we will be transitioned to SPARS on February 28th. So I wanted to ask you to really ensure that your data on the state system is accurate. All of that information will be transferred to SPARS. If you see that anything is incorrect, please contact the GIPRA help desk, and their number is on the screen. You could also contact me and let me know that something does not look right. Our average GIPRA rates as a cohort for the family treatment drug courts, it's 75% for intake and 53% for follow-up. We should be over 80%. Our goal is for every program to be over 80%. So we're really hoping to increase those rates in the next 6 months. Okay, and that's all that I have. Thank you all for participating today.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Deidre and Phil, for organizing our first webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.